Flo in the Mo.
Clinical psychologist and author Jordan Peterson says of George Orwell's book, The Road to Wigan Pier, that socialism and socialists are not so much motivated for their care of the poor, but rather their hatred of the rich. And the Socialists of Canada are known as the NDP. And the leader of the NDP party, that claims to be all about caring for the working Canadian citizens, can never be seen without his Versace bags, designer suits, and Rolex watches. And here in BC, we are also under the rule of the NDP party. It came to power as a minority power here, only because it managed to make a deal with the Green Party to secure the votes. In 2020, when it was the height of the pandemic, and it was so dangerous that you couldn't go outside to public parks or schools, and gyms are closed, the government insisted it was safe enough to go to those voter polls and vote them back into office. This time around, they formed a majority government. And the leader of that party was John Horgan, an individual that grew up without a father. So it's no surprise that he believes that a government should play the role of your father instead. And in his time in office, you could see he proudly hung his poster when he was part of the CCF, now known as the NDP, whose manifesto was as follows: to eradicate the system of capitalism and replace it with a planned socialist economy. He has since stepped down back in 2022 due to health concerns, and a new member was elected, David Eby, but not by the citizens of BC. One of the last things that John Horgan will be known for was his firing of all health practitioners and nurses and doctors who refused to get vaccinated. Even when they were on the front lines of when COVID started and there was no vaccine, it was okay for them to be there. And those same doctors, nurses, and practitioners have not been hired back under the new leadership. A couple months ago, in response to Trudeau's new carbon tax, all the premiers of the provinces got together and held a meeting to discuss their opinions and ideas surrounding the environment instead of through tax. And you could see who the children in the room were and who the adults were.
For us, the carbon tax has been an effective mechanism to reduce carbon pollution. But the tax has been about ensuring people are protected rather than particular heat sources. So I brought a T-shirt with me here about my enthusiasm for the federal government's heat pump program in Atlantic Canada, and how much I hope that it comes to British Columbia in the same way.
I do not share David Eby's, Premier Eby's enthusiasm for heat pumps. Because in our province, they don't work particularly well at below minus 25. You can't get insurance without having a backup to your heat pump. And so it's not really a credible option in our province. There may be other options that emerge in future with technology, but in the meantime, all this is doing is just causing unfairness, making life less affordable, and really harming our most vulnerable as we get into the winter season. We know that the export of LNG internationally is going to be able to reduce dirtier fuels, coal and wood and dung. And in fact, we've already seen what happens in jurisdictions that don't have access to clean natural gas. They convert back to coal. So if this is truly a global problem, then we need global thinking and global solutions. And we should be exporting more of our cleaner fuel to reduce global emissions and not punishing our customers here at home.
So the issue isn't the policy, it's how the policy is being applied. And up until now, largely has been somewhat fairly applied across the nation. I don't think anyone can say this today. And we have said that if the federal government isn't going to extend that carbon tax pause to the other forms of home heating oil, we do have a Crown utility in Saskatchewan, and we will extend that pause to those folks that utilize natural gas in Saskatchewan. And I would ask the federal government respectfully to revisit this decision. Don't send a minister out that is going to spread divisions on how many you have elected from one party or the other across this nation, how that might impact the decision that this federal government makes, to actually revisit this decision with an eye to being fair to all Canadian families.
The NDP, who are self-described socialists, are propping up the Liberal government, which have also slid into the definition of socialism. And both of them believe in Big Brother government, a Big Brother government that costs taxpayers $151 billion a year to sustain, as federal public service employment has increased by 31% in the past 7 years. And that's why we're seeing more federal tax hikes in 2024 coming up. And that's why my hope for 2024 is that we see a federal election before it's too late, before Justin Trudeau has all but destroyed the middle class.
Budget will balance itself.
If you're dependent on welfare or universal basic income, you are not free. And if you disagree with the government, from what we've seen, they have no problem freezing your bank account. So I urge you, now's the time to wake up. Peace.
The Flow and the Mo.